Okay, so I have been staring at this grill project that I'm doing for a guy in the neighborhood for many, many hours. And just trying to kind of develop it in my mind. And it's coming together.
Hey everybody, thanks for checking out the video today. So I am actually making a drill caddy for a friend in the neighborhood, and he is going to use this every time that he goes tailgating. I'm curious to know, if you go tailgating, what team are you representing? Let me know in the comments below. This is really early on from when I started doing woodworking as a hobby, and I didn't record a lot of stuff, so I don't have all of the video footage. However, I thought this was a really cool project and I didn't want to miss sharing it with you guys. So it's a short video. Thanks again for hanging out. I hope you enjoy it, and I don't know, maybe you'll make one of these for yourself. Let me know if you do. At the end of the day, this is not a complex build at all. I basically built a box frame, as you see there, over a metal base to support this entire structure. And then after building that box, which you'll see me kind of put together here a little bit, I build another box. And that top box we'll talk about here in a bit, but it's basically the one that's going to hold everything. And then I built another box, which will act as the drawer, which again, I'll put together here in just a little bit. Now, as I'm watching this back, I'm realizing that one, I don't have the best camera angles. I'm getting better at that. And then two, I should probably invest in some dust-colored khakis. I'm just saying. Anyway, I do have a couple of still shots that will at least give me some credit for the work that I've done up until this point. So there are those. And back-to-back camera angles. So before I actually took this project on, I did my research. And I saw a lot of people out there who preferred to take bark off with the chisel. I went out and I purchased some chisels. I tried it. I didn't really like it. I felt like it left more room for cleanup in the end. All the grooves and stuff that the chisel leaves behind. So I decided to go with the sander, and that worked out a lot better. As I go along sanding here, let me be the first person to point out, I know I am not wearing a mask. Very early on in doing woodworking as a hobby, I didn't know about that. Believe it or not, I wasn't really tracking. And even now, I'll be honest, my wife often has to keep me accountable to wearing a mask. But you do want to wear a mask if you're doing a lot of sanding, because this stuff can get into your lungs. There, I said it. Okay, back to the build. So there's this glue bead on here that I thought about using the chisel for. But I just stuck with what works for me. I am in this to get better at the craft, so I did have a small hand plane that I picked up at some point, and I pulled that out to get some reps with it. While that footage rolls, let me first of all say kudos to those of you out there who are using these hand planes. This is not easy work. It is without a doubt a skill set that you have to work on, and I'm not there yet, but I'm getting better. Let's talk about the overall makeup of this. As I mentioned earlier, the small box that's on top of the bigger one is really the nuts and bolts of this entire assembly. It's got a couple areas on the left and right that can help hold like sauces and things like that. And then there's a little area inside that will hold spatulas and serving trays. And then there's something I do to the top of it that I won't spoil right now, but I thought it was pretty neat. What I can tell you now that won't spoil anything is that I sanded this a lot. I started with 60 grit, and then I moved my way up to 120 and 220. I didn't have a planer, I didn't have a drum sander, So I was sanding this thing down by hand as best that I could, and it did turn out really well, but it took forever. 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 Shout out to Sandlot.
Okay, so I have been staring at this grill project that I'm doing for a guy in the neighborhood for many, many hours. I mean, not many hours straight, but I've been staring at it, for several days, and just trying to kind of develop it in my mind. And it's coming together. I had to find a way to build a base on the bottom bracket so that I could make a cabinet and a top for him to place food items and things like that. So that is what you're looking at right now. I like to let these projects kind of develop themselves. And when I went to put this together, I realized there was a gap here, and that would obviously look pretty ghetto if I left that there. I can do a false front for the drawer and cover up some of this, but you would still see that gap where you can look all the way in to the box. I decided that I would take a piece of walnut to match his tabletop, and I would put that in there to kind of cover the gap. So I cut a piece of scrap walnut to fit inside of here, and you can't see it on this one, but on the other one, I rounded the edge of the walnut and let it stick out ever so slightly. So there'll be a little bit of a ridge there, if you can see that. A little bit of a ridge there that will actually stick out from this, just to give it a little bit of character. So I'm hoping that the walnut top and then this little piece here will tie this all together.
Now at this point, all that was left to do was to assemble the drawer, throw on some poly and paint, and this project was done. Okay, so word to the wise as I start to wrap this one up. I did go ahead and coat this entire thing in polyurethane, every nook and cranny, inside, outside, just to protect every part of it for years to come. I did this project 2 months after I started woodworking, and that was over 2 years ago. And I know that the customer still uses this today for his tailgate parties. Because I knew he was using it for that, I threw in a couple of serving trays just to add an extra little touch. I hope you guys like this video. Allow me to remind you that whatever you do, work at it with all your heart. And remember that if we put a little intention and practice behind what we do, we can do anything. Now go create something amazing. It's about the journey.